Before entering the story, please subscribe to the channel, like and share to help me. Thank you. Master the game, then burn the rules. Most people spend their whole lives trying to play by the rules. They memorize the handbook, they follow the instructions, they wait for permission. And still they lose, because the game was never designed for you to win by following the rules. It was designed to keep you in the games, obedient, predictable. See, rules are useful in the beginning. They teach structure, they keep you from crashing before you learn how to drive. But once you've mastered the basics, those same rules become chains. The problem, too many people stay stuck in learning mode. They're always asking how, always waiting for the green light. By the time they finally move, the opportunity's already gone. Mastery changes that. When you master the game, you stop reacting. You don't wait for the rules to guide you. You see through them, you recognize which ones are tools and which ones are traps. And that's where everything shifts. Because once you know how the system works, you realize you don't need to obey it. You can bend it, twist it, break it. You build your own strategy, your own timing, your own code. But make no mistake, none of this happens by accident. You have to study the battlefield first, know the patterns, understand the players. You've got to become so sharp that nothing surprises you. It takes patience, discipline, grit. You don't rise by rebelling too early. That's just noise. You rise by learning the game so well that you become untouchable within it. And then you disrupt it. Not for attention, not for ego, but because you've outgrown it. That's when the rules no longer apply. Not because you ignore them, but because you've already absorbed everything they had to teach. Master the game, then burn the rules. Not to destroy, but to build what no one else dared to imagine. To play at a level where permission isn't needed. Only precision, only clarity, only will. Because when you reach that level, you don't compete. You dominate, silently, strategically, without asking for applause. The crowd still clings to the rulebook, still argues about what's allowed and what's not. While you've already rewritten the game in your favor, that's the difference. Most chase approval. You chase outcomes, most want to fit in. You want to stand alone. Not to be seen, but to be unshakable. That's real power. Not loud, not flashy, just undeniable. And here's the truth, no one tells you. The rules were made by people no smarter than you. They just had the courage to go first, to carve paths in places others were afraid to step. Now it's your turn. But you don't start by being reckless. You start by being disciplined. You show up when it's boring. You get sharp when no one's watching. You learn the inner workings so deeply, you can predict every move before it happens. And once you've earned that mastery, you stop reacting to the world and start bending it. Not in arrogance, but in vision. Not in chaos, but in control. Because the ones who rise the highest aren't the ones who follow orders. They're the ones who understand them so well. They know exactly when to break them and exactly why. So while the average man argues about what's fair, you're busy forging results. You're moving in silence. You're building leverage. You're becoming untouchable. You don't just follow rules anymore. You create standards. And the world has no choice but to respond. Because once you've mastered the game, you become the game. You dictate the tempo. You set the tone. You make others adjust to you. The noise, it doesn't touch you. The distractions, they don't move you. Because you've built your foundation on something deeper than approval. Execution. You no longer need motivation. You've replaced it with systems. You no longer seek validation. You've replaced it with results. And when people ask how you did it, they'll expect some secret, some shortcut. But there isn't one. There never was. There was only this. You played the long game. You paid attention when others were drifting. You trained in silence when others were performing. You suffered in the shadows so you could rise in the light. You understood something they didn't. That before you can break the mold, you must become the mold. You must know it inside out. So when the time comes, you don't just rebel, you rebuild. And it's in that moment when your craft, your clarity, your control align, that you stop asking what's allowed and start deciding what's possible. Because now, you're not just playing to win, you're playing to change the entire field. And the rules, they'll be forced to change with you, or be left behind. That's the silent threat of real mastery. You don't shout, you don't beg, you don't explain, you just move differently. And suddenly, the old systems start to crack under the weight of your presence. People feel at even if they can't name it. They sense the shift. They recognize the authority of someone who no longer plays by the rules, but plays above them. You become the standard they measure against, the force they can't control, the variable they didn't account for. That's when they start watching you, trying to copy you, but it won't work because what you've built wasn't borrowed, it was earned. Through silence, through struggle, through relentless focus when it would have been easier to quit. You didn't just adapt to the system, you dissected it, outgrew it, and now, you move in a space of your own making. There's no playbook for where you're headed, no map, no blueprint, just instinct, intention, and absolute clarity. You don't look for doors to open anymore. You build your own and walk through without knocking, because at this level, you are the door. Access flows through you. Opportunities bend to your direction, not because of luck and not because of noise, but because you earned the leverage. And that leverage is everything. It means you don't chase, you attract. You don't explain, you execute. You don't follow trends, you set them. People start to sense it. They'll whisper that you've changed, that you're colder, sharper, more distant. They're right. You didn't evolve to be liked. You evolved to be effective, to move with purpose, not permission. And when the world starts asking why you're not playing fair, remind them, you played fair long enough to master the board. Now you play by outcome, by results, by principle, not pressure. Because here's the brutal truth most never accept. If you want to change the game, you can't do it while still needing the game's approval. You must be willing to walk away from their comfort, from their applause, from their validation, and build something so pure, so refined, that even your silence sends a message. You no longer need to be seen, because your work speaks loud enough. You mastered the game. Now the fire is yours. So, burn the rules. And forge your own code. Not out of anger, not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. Because you finally understand. Freedom isn't given. It's built. And it's only built by those willing to outgrow the systems designed to keep them small. Most people want transformation without discomfort. Power without pressure. Status without sacrifice. But you know better. You've bled for your vision. You've sacrificed time, comfort, and cheap pleasures. You've faced yourself in the Morono filters, no excuses, and came back sharper every time. That's why you can walk away from the rulebook. Because you earned the right to build your own. And what you build won't look like anything they've seen before. It'll be cleaner, stronger, unapologetically yours. No more compromise. No more dilution. From now on, everything you touch carries your imprint, not the world's expectations, not someone else's model, yours. Because once you've mastered the game and burned the rules, you become something far more dangerous than just successful. You become untouchable, unmoved, unstoppable. And from that place you lead, without asking to, you influence, without trying to, you command, without raising your voice. That's the silent weight of real power. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt instantly by those who recognize the difference between surface and substance. They'll wonder how you got here. They'll try to reverse engineer your process, but they'll miss the truth. You didn't take shortcuts. You took ownership. You took the hits, and you took control of what most people outsource. Their mindset, their standards, their time. You learned early that if you play their game too long, you become their pawn. So you made a different move. You played to transcend. And now, you're playing on a board of your own creation. Fewer pieces, higher stakes, but every move, yours. No more seeking validation. No more asking what's next. You decide what's next, because once you've mastered the game and burned the rules, you don't just live life, you design it. Frame by frame, move by move, and every step forward is done with intention. No hesitation, no second guessing, because hesitation is for the ones still waiting for permission. You've already granted it to yourself. That's what separates those who rise from those who remain. Not talent, not luck, not noise, but self-authority. That unshakable inner code that says, I don't need to be chosen. Choose myself. From that place, everything changes. You don't just show up, you arrive with present. You don't just speak, you speak with weight. You don't just act, you execute with precision. In the world, it either adapts to your pace or gets left behind in your silence. Because you're not here to fit in. You're here to redefine. So let them cling to the old ways. Let them argue about what's acceptable. You've already moved on. You've outgrown the walls they told you to stay inside. And now, you build without boundaries. Move without noise. Win without needing to be seen. Because the final evolution isn't loud. It's calm, it's focused, it's inevitable. And when you reach that level, you don't chase opportunity, you become it. Your very presence opens doors. Not because you ask, but because you embody what others are still trying to fake. That's what mastery looks like in the real world. It's not loud, it's not desperate, it's clean, deliberate, and ruthless in its clarity. You know exactly who you are, what you want, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And from that clarity comes power. The kind that can't be bought. The kind that doesn't flinch. The kind that rewrites rooms without speaking a word. This is where most people fall off. They're still trying to prove something. Still trying to be accepted by a system they should have outgrown years ago. But not you. You didn't come to be accepted. You came to elevate, to build differently, to live intentionally without compromise, without apology. Because now, every move you make is rooted in one unshakable truth. You don't answer to the rules, you answer to your standard. And that standard, it's non-negotiable. It's forged from fire. It's tested by solitude. And it speaks one message, loud and clear. You've mastered the game. And now, you own it. And when you own the game, you no longer fear losing. because you understand something deeper. You are the asset. You carry the value. You bring the weight. Take away the titles, the resources, the recognition, and you'd still build it all back, because it was never about what you had. It was about who you became in the process. They'll talk about mindset. They'll throw around buzzwords like grit and hustle. But you lived it in the silence, in the discipline, in the nights no one saw, when the only one holding you accountable was you. Now, that internal pressure you once fought against, it's your weapon, your edge, your compass, because you've stopped playing for points, you're playing for legacy. Not the kind that fades with trends, but the kind that echoes, that shapes others without trying to impress them. And you carry that with a calm intensity. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be liked. You only need to stay aligned with the mission, with the vision, with the code you carved from chaos. No more noise. No more wasted motion. From here on out, every step is lethal. Every move is calculated. Every day is war, but one you no longer fear. Because now you know you are the storm, not the one that announces itself, but the one that shifts the ground when it arrives, quiet, relentless, unstoppable. And this is where most people tap out. When the climb gets steep, when the pressure gets real. But this is where you come alive. You've learned to breathe where others choke, to focus where others flinch, to stay grounded while everything around you breaks. Because pressure doesn't break you anymore. It builds you. You don't run from it. You run into it, with eyes open and fists steady. And that's what separates the temporary from the timeless. You're not a trend. You're not a phase. Your principle in motion. A walking standard, a constant reminder that real power is earned, not inherited. You no longer follow paths, you cut them. Not with noise, but with consistency. Not with hype, but with discipline. You've burned the rule book, not to watch it fall, but to build something stronger from the ashes. So let them keep chasing shortcuts. Let them keep searching for secrets. You already know there is no secret. There's only the work, the mastery, the quiet fire that never dies. And now, with that fire burning in your chest, you move like a man who knows. Knows what he wants. Knows what it costs. Knows who he is without flinching. There's a stillness to it. Not laziness, not apathy, but the kind of stillness that comes from certainty. The kind that unnerves lesser men because they've never tasted it. And the more you lean into that fire, the more you realize you don't need permission. You never did. You were just waiting to stop apologizing for your intensity, your standards, your refusal to be average. Now you walk into rooms differently. Not because you try to be different, but because you are. The game you mastered, it's beneath you now. You've outgrown it, outpaced it. You've taken its lessons and transcended them. And the rules you burned, they weren't for destruction. They were for forging a man who can no longer be managed, labeled, or boxed in. You're not interested in fitting in. You're here to bend reality around your will, to design, to dominate, to define. So when they ask how you did it, how you moved without noise, built without permission, and rose without compromise, you'll just give them the truth. I mastered the game, and then I became the fire that rewrote it. And from this point forward, every move is yours. No borrowed ambition, no inherited blueprint, just your own raw conviction, sharpened by failure, refined by solitude, and driven by something no one can take from you. Unbreakable self. You're not chasing motivation anymore. That's for beginners. You operate from principle, from discipline, from a code etched in the choices no one else was willing to make. You wake up ready, not hype locked in, because the mission hasn't changed, and neither have you. You're still hungry, still dangerous. But now, you're calculated, strategic, cold in execution, warm in vision. You know what's at stake, and you refuse to lower your standards just to make others comfortable. Because once you've walked through fire, you don't shrink for anyone. You rise without apology. You build without compromise. And you move without explanation. So let the world try to figure you out. Let them analyze your silence, misread your distance, question your pace. They'll never understand it, because they're still waiting for instructions, still looking for rules, still hoping someone will show them the way. But you are the way. And from here on out, you lead without looking back, not out of pride, but out of purpose, because you've burned too many bridges behind you to ever return to small thinking, weak habits, or broken systems. You've buried the version of you that needed approval, the one that doubted, the one that hesitated. And what rose in its place is pure intention, sharpened by repetition, powered by vision. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to compete. You're here to command your space, with quiet dominance and relentless clarity. From this point forward, your energy shifts rooms. Your focus silences noise. Your standards speak before you do. No wasted words, no forced moves, just calculated steps each, one building something bigger than you. Because the real goal was never just success. It was sovereignty. The ability to move when you want, how you want, why you want, without explaining a single thing to anyone. That's the power that comes from mastering the game and burning the rules. Not just freedom, but authority. Not just impact, but identity. And as the world keeps spinning in circles chasing trends, chasing shortcuts, chasing validation, you stay grounded. Unmoved, unapologetic, unmatched, because you didn't just change your game, you became the standard. And now you raise the bar just by existing. Every room you walk into, you carry weight, not because you demand respect, but because you've made yourself impossible to ignore. You've earned that through sweat, through solitude, through the nights no one else wanted to live. And now the results speak louder than any words ever could. You're no longer building just for survival. You're building for legacy, for something that outlives the moment, outlasts the noise, and outperforms every shallow imitation. Because while others chase attention, you command influence. While they settle for relevance, you operate from reverence. For the craft, for the discipline, for the standard. You don't just move with purpose. You become purpose. Focused, clean, non-reactive, and when setbacks come in, they will. You won't flinch. You've been through worse. You've thrived in silence, and you've built strength that can't be measured in metrics or mirrors. This is the season where men either fold or forge, and you're forging daily, deliberately, with zero intention of slowing down. Because once you've mastered the game, burned the rules, and built your own system, you realize one thing with absolute certainty: you're just getting started. And what comes next isn't growth. It's domination, not of people but of your lane. Your purpose, your calling, every move from here is legacy. Every action is intentional, rooted in vision, not emotion. You're not playing for applause. You're playing for impact, for precision, for permanence. And that requires a different level of discipline, a different level of silence, a different level of obsession. This is where you separate completely. No more debates, no more proven, no more explaining your vision to those who aren't qualified to understand it. You execute and let results do the talking, because you didn't come this far to plateau. You came to break ceilings, to stretch what's possible, to carry the weight most people run from and turn it into fuel. This is why the rules had to burn. Not for destruction, but for rebirth. To clear the noise, remove the limits, and build from truth, not tradition. And the truth is this: there is no fallback plan. There is no safety net. There is only forward. With fire in your eyes, steel in your spine, and silence on your lips. Because at this level, everything speaks without saying a word. Your discipline speaks your consistency, speaks your results. Rower, you no longer operate on motivation. You operate on identity. You are the standard now. You are the machine, built through repetition, sharpened through setbacks, refined through refusal. Refusal to quit, to settle, to play small. And now, you move with a kind of certainty that makes the average uncomfortable. You make no noise, but your presence shifts everything. Because there's a difference between trying to be great and knowing you already are, because you put in the work when no one was watching. This is the phase where you disappear from distractions, where you double down on the habits that made you and eliminate everything that weakens you. Your circle gets smaller. Your time gets tighter. Your boundaries get sharper. Not out of ego, but out of clarity. You've mastered the game. You've rewritten the rules. Now, you're building something timeless. And no one's coming to save you. But no one can stop you either. Because the man who no longer needs the world is the one who shapes it. And from here, you sculpt reality with intention. No fluff, no noise, no detours, just clean execution, one calculated step at a time. You don't chase moments anymore, you engineer them. You don't react to life, you orchestrate it. Because the truth is, most men exist in cycles, trapped by patterns, pulled by distractions, living lives they never designed. But you've stepped outside the loop. You see the game from above now? Every move, every piece, every illusion. That's what happens when you stop needing permission. You stop being a player and start becoming the architect. And with that, power comes a responsibility. To never fall back into the noise. To never betray the standard you bled to build. To never dilute the fire for comfort, applause, or compromise. Because you didn't build all this just to feel safe. You built it to feel alive, fully awake, fully in control, and fully aligned with the highest version of yourself. That version, he doesn't entertain weakness. He doesn't get distracted by low-level energy. He moves with clarity. He speaks only when it's time. And when he does, the room listens. Because the man who mastered the game, burned the rules, and built from nothing. Answers to no one but the mission. And the mission is everything. It's not a goal, not a phase, not a nice idea. It's the reason you wake up different. The fuel behind your silence. The edge in your eyes that never fades. This isn't about success anymore. It's about alignment. About becoming so dialed in, so laser-focused, that nothing can pull you off course. Not opinions, not obstacles, not even your own doubt, because you've buried that doubt. Starved it, replaced it with data, with discipline, with proof. You've become undeniable not through talk, but through results stacked so high they silence every critic including the one in your own head. And now, you're operating from conviction. Not hype, not pressure, just pure, quiet intensity that moves with precision. You don't need to speed up, you need to tighten up. Tighter systems, tighter standards, tighter alignment between who you say you are and how you actually live. Because every second wasted is a second stolen from the mission. And now you know, you don't get those seconds back. So, from here on out, everything matters. The way you think, the way you train, the way you speak to yourself when no one's around. Every detail feeds the legacy. And the legacy is built in silence, but felt forever. Not through empty words or surface wins, but through the unseen repetitions, the early mornings, the late nights, the relentless pursuit of excellence when no one's clapping. You don't need an audience. You are the proof. You carry the weight of everything you've built. And you wear it like armor, not for show. But because it's who you are now, the mission became your identity. Not something you do, something you are. And that's what makes you lethal in a world full of noise. You no longer get pulled off center. You are the center. You've become the man people watch in silence. The one they can't read, the one who doesn't flinch, because he's already been through hell and made peace with it. The storms don't move you anymore, because you are the storm-controlled, focused, strategic. And as the world races for more, faster, louder, you keep your head down, doing the boring work that makes you dangerous, because you understand the truth. It's not about intensity for a week. It's about consistency for a lifetime. That's what the greats are built on. Not flashes of brilliance, but decades of non-negotiable standards. So you stay sharp, you stay silent, you stay deadly, consistent, because while they chase shortcuts, you embody the long game, not the fast rise, not the viral moment, but the kind of rise that can't be undone. The kind that's rooted, too deep, too shake, too real, too ignore, because you've already outlasted most, not because you're louder, but because you're relentless. You don't break rhythm, you don't break focus. You don't break for anything that doesn't build the mission. And that mission, it's not just about achievement, it's about becoming the kind of man who can't be bought, broken, or bent. A man whose silence speaks louder than their noise, whose presence shifts rooms without effort. Because when everything is chaos out there, you remain unmoved. You've learned how to carry pressure without showing it, how to move without announcing it, how to win without needing to be seen. That's the real flex. Not attention, not applause, but total control of your world. Because you earned it, and no one can take from you what they never gave. So you keep building, not to impress, not to prove, but because you said you would, and that's enough. Because at this point, your word is law. Your effort is sacred. Your time is a weapon, and everything you touch carries your fingerprint of excellence. Not because you aim for perfection, but because you refuse to deliver anything less than intentional. Every action, every conversation, every step forward, deliberate, sharp, purpose-built. You're not hoping for results anymore. You expect them because you've designed your life around one non-negotiable principle. Show up like it's already yours. That mindset, it separates you from 99% of people who wait for motivation, for opportunity, for someone to light the fire. You are the fire. And when that becomes your default, the world bends. Not immediately, not loudly, but inevitably, because power respects power. Discipline respects discipline. And the world begins to mirror your standards back to you. You don't chase respect, you command it through your consistency. You don't demand recognition, you make it impossible to ignore you. And while others are still explaining their plans, you're living in execution. No noise, no debate, just results stacked, brick by brick, with ruthless focus. And as the foundation grows, so does your range, your vision, your reach. Because now, you're not just playing the game. You're expanding it, redefining it, making it impossible to follow, because no one else was willing to go that deep. And from here,